It's Pyram King, and I'm really excited to bring to you another Curse of Strahd guide. This one is to the streets of Vallaki, and this is one of two street maps we're going to do for Vallaki. This is the streets of the Vallaki. The next guide will be the town square of Vallaki. Now, before I get started, a big, huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. It's your support that allows me to continue to do this, improve my game, and create the Foundry Adventure modules. That's right, everything that you see here in Foundry, the maps, the lights, the walls, the road tables, all the additional content is wrapped up to a module you can go ahead and import right into your game. To get those, you need to be a Patreon member. You can become a Patreon member by clicking on the link down below in the description at patreon.com/Pyram King. Now, there's two important people I need to recognize for this. First of all, as always, DM Andy, who made some special maps for us to allow them to include in the Foundry Adventure modules for you. And if you like his maps, you're interested in them, he makes them in gridless, night, day, and weather effects. There's a link down below to DM Andy's Patreon page. And another special shout out to Blair, who is the developer of Library Scene Packer. He has created this module that allows me to create these Foundry Adventure modules. There's some special features. He continues to improve it. And as I do that, I'll be updating and making these even better and better. There's a couple things, surprises in the future in store for you, thanks to Blair and his Library Scene Packer for Foundry. So before we get started, let's talk a little bit about Vallaki before we dive into this guy, because I think there's an important understanding that we need to think about as Vallaki. Vallaki is the geographical center of Barovia. To the east of Vallaki, we have Castle Ravenloft, the village of Barovia, the Tessar Pools with the Vistani camp. To the west of Vallaki, we have the Wolf Den, the Abbey, Kresk, the Winery, the Wizard's Tower. And to the south, you have the Argynvost, the ruins at Argynvost, the ruins at Berez, Salinka Pass Amber Temple. It is the biggest village or city in all of Barovia. There's some important encounters, there's some politics going on, there's some interesting location, and it is probably the place where your players will spend a lot of time, probably more time than any other single location, and a location which your players will visit often, most likely. Now, I believe, in my personal and humble opinion, that Curse of Strahd just didn't flesh it out enough. It doesn't have enough maps for some important locations. There's no map for the church, and there's a huge event there. There's no map for Blinsky's. There's a couple other things I thought were missing. And it's not just me. If you look at the modding community, there's some great modders out there like Mandy Mod, Dragon Card, Lunch Break Heroes, and Harrison, who created a lot of content and expanded upon Curse of Strahd and Vallaki, and I'm going to be pulling a couple of things from each one of them and incorporating my own ideas. Now, one of the things when I wanted to do the street maps that I was really thinking about is there are some important NPCs that don't have their own locations in Vallaki, and I think they should. And so DM Andy put together a really nice street map, the first one here that we're going to go through. This one does have Blinsky's map in it. And there's some surprises in here. There's a couple new locations, there's some new items, there's a new little funny quest thing, so I'm excited to share it with you. First of all, the one thing I really like about what DM Andy did with his map here, and we'll see this again in his town square map of Vallaki, is he incorporates a bunch of maps into one map, and that allows us, especially on Foundry, to have our characters visit multiple locations without loading up more maps. It makes it really nice and easy. And there's some synergies between these different locations, as we will show them to you. Now, in here, I've done all the lighting on the walls. You don't have to do that if you're a Patreon member and you're going to be downloading this. So let's start off with the first one. I'm really excited about this one. We'll zoom up here. We'll start up in the upper left-hand corner. And this is the ground floor for, you guessed it, Vasilli's Manor. Now, Vasilli, as you know, was briefly mentioned in Curse of Strahd, and it's been really fleshed out a lot by Mandy Ma, Dragon Card, and other modders in here. And I think it's important that we talk about Vasilli just a little bit. Vasilli is Strahd. Strahd is Vasilli. In my mind, Strahd has been living up in this Castle Ravenloft, distraught, anguished, the lost love of Tatiana searching for her soul again, who's been reincarnated and re-encapsulated into Irina. It is the story of Strahd is a Shakespearean tragedy, if you will. I mean, he was a prince before he was a vampire, and he fell in love, unfortunately, with his brother's fiance, and tragedy occurred. So I imagine Vasilli is that piece of Strahd in which he thinks about what his life could have been if he wasn't a prince, if he didn't become this vampire, if he just hung on to that piece of mortality. So Vasilli is this lesser noble who loves life. He is the life of parties. Everybody in Vallaki knows him and likes him. He doesn't get involved in politics. He's a Renaissance man, enjoys music and theater and art, and a gentleman and classy. Vasilli will never get in an argument. He doesn't like to get involved in combat. He will graciously excuse himself to find a more hospitable location or people to avoid confrontation. Now, we know Strahd could easily dispatch anybody in Vallaki. In fact, he could just wipe out your party. But Strahd values his persona as Vasilli so much because it's his last cling onto mortality of what his life could be like. It's his escapism. It's his happy moment, if you will. And so he values the time he spends as Vasilli. And he enjoys conversation and dinners and being with people because he's so damn lonely in Ravenloft. So I put some of those notes in there about Vasilli in the DM notes and the journal notes. I came up with this kind of funny saying that I think personifies Vasilli in Vallaki, and it's often said in Vallaki, it's not a special affair if Vasilli is not there. So it kind of he's invited to dinner parties, invited to special events, and he will not attend if he's not invited because he knows that's rude. And you notice I put the quotes around invited because that fits in with the whole vampire lore. He won't come or enter a threshold unless he's invited. So, but that plays into his gentleman persona, right? He would never intrude where he had not been invited. So it's interesting there. Now, one of the things here in of Vasilli's manor. By the way, there's the token of Vasilli. He's a very dapper, personifies this very young, classy, debonair type of gentleman here. There is a new character I've added here in Vasilli's manor, and this is Brom. And Brom is Vasilli's manservant. Now, Brom is a tribute to Bram Stoker, the author of the Gothic horror story Dracula, so I just thought I should call him Brom. Now, Brom is loyal to Vasilli. Brom has no idea that Vasilli is Strahd at all. Brom is his manservant, his cleaner, his cook, runs his errands. He is the epitome of a old, classy butler that will always protect the image and heirs of his master, which is Vasilli. He wants to make sure that Vasilli is able to appreciate the finer things in life and will do whatever he can to make sure that happens. So whenever you're at Vasilli's manor, Brom will always be there. Now, there's a special location in Vasilli's manor I just wanted to point out here, is in this main room on the ground floor. There's a bookshelf right here, and the bookshelf will slide open. I think this should be a rather very difficult investigation or perception or investigation check, whatever you're running, DC 20 or higher, because this opens up into a secret room here, which I will zoom in. And this, you can see kind of the red smoke, vapors and mist around the candles. This is a teleportation circle. So you wonder how Strahd gets to and from, or Vasilli gets to and from Vallaki from Ravenloft. It's here, inside his manor. Now this takes the player directly to K44 in Ravenloft, which is Strahd's. And there's a link. I put little links in the bottom of my journal notes to D&D Beyond. If you do have D&D Beyond, it's a quick way. You can just link right back into Curse of Strahd. If you don't need to use the links, and you can use the book. But it takes him to K44, his closet. So I imagine Strahd at Ravenloft, he goes to his closet, he puts on his nice suit and evening wear, he takes on the persona of Vasilli, and he materializes through his teleportation circle here to Vasilli's Manor and in this location. Now, the location has some occult things to it. There's some shackles on the wall. Perhaps Vasilli, maybe as Strahd, interrogates some helpless or poor villagers. If the players do stumble in here and they do have a successful Arcana check, they just know it's a teleportation circle. They don't know where it goes to. And any investigation in this room will not reveal anything about Strahd. And unless they go through the teleportation circle, they will not know it's connected to Ravenloft. Even if they get through to the Ravenloft through the teleportation circle, they most likely will probably think that Vasilli has been influenced or working for Strahd, but you do not want to, in any way, shape, or form, imply that Vasilli is Strahd, or even that they're affiliated together. That's the last thing you want to have happen here. Now, I'm going to take you up to the second floor. We have the dining table here. Perhaps Vasilli invites over the players to join him for some dining here. Got some candles lit there. We're going to go upstairs. By the way, for the Foundry players, the blue box on here represents where you're going to put if you're going to use the module multi-level token so that your players can move between map and map. So here's the second floor map. We're going to go up there to Vasilli's home. And here we are here. And at the top of Vasilli's home, we have kind of a room where, he's got some flowers. He's got the piano, maybe to wine and dine some of his more private guests, if you will. His bedroom is over here. And this room over here is, I imagine, this is a room that he has prepared for Irina. I mentioned in here that he has a special fondness for Irina. I mean, he is Strahd, so, no shit, he likes Irina, right? So he's going to probably try to court her, be a gentleman pursuer, if you will. Depending on how you want to play Vasilli, it could be kind of more of a love interest or kind of that, benefactor, if you will. In my game, Vasilli and Irina actually got engaged and they were off to Kresk, to the Abbot, to get married, but obviously that fell apart, and I'll cover that when we do Kresk. So he's prepared this room here, imagining, in his delusions of grandeur or whatever, that, his life will get better and maybe Irina will come and stay here for him. He's kind of made this room as her room, so she could have a room if she wanted to stay in Vallaki. So that's what this room is right here. And then, of course, Vasilli's room is right here. And, there you have it. That's Vasilli's Manor. So let's go to the next location that's right next door right here. And we have, this is Ernst's location. Now, who is Ernst? Let's talk about Ernst briefly. Ernst is the right-hand man, the spy, the confidant, the person that's going to handle all the dark deeds for Lady Valkyr. Now remember, there's this political power struggle in Vallaki. You have the Burgermeister with his right-hand man, and now you have Lady Valkyr. And Ernst is the person that does all the deeds and spying and helping Lady Valkyr. I imagine Ernst in some kind of perverted loyalty, because he has this kind of strange admiration, perhaps even weird twisted love for Lady Valkyr. So he'll do anything for her. Now his home is very efficient. His downstairs just has a table and chairs, and it serves everything. And he probably eats dinner here. And if he's not here, he's probably next door at the Blackwater Tavern, which we'll cover in a second. Now, one of the things in Curse of Strahd, in Curse of Strahd, you'll read about Lady Valkyr's wish. And what happens in this scenario is Ernst is spying on the players. And he is determined if the players are willing to maybe aid or take Lady Valkyr's side against the Burgermeister, and B, discern at the worst situation, are they enemies or are they a threat to Lady Valkyr? Now, Lady Valkyr, if we go upstairs to Ernst's bedroom right here, here's upstairs at his place. Let me just move this out of the way so you can see everything okay. This is his bedroom up here in his little living room. Now, in the notes, she instructs Ernst with a letter and some bag of gold to go to the Vistani camp outside of Vallaki if the players are a threat to her and won't aid her. Perhaps they might take the Burgermeister's side. So she's going to hire the Vistani to assassinate the players if she feels that they're a threat. So what I did in my player notes here is I said, we're going to hide the note from Lady Walker to Ernst in here. We're going to hide the sealed letter to the Vistani and the gold. So the players could discover, I have a DC check in here of 12, but they could discover this note from Lady Walker to Ernst. Hey, if the adventurers don't join me against Burgermeister, or if they're a threat, take this letter and the gold to the Vistani. They'll know what to do. Now, Ernst is too loyal and respectful to open the letter, but it's implied. He knows that this letter is a letter, asking the Vistani to assassinate the players, and here's the bag of gold to pay for it. He won't know exactly what's in there, but that's what he's going to assume. Now, this leaves it up to you to play some interesting role player. If the players find it, he hasn't given it to the Vistani yet. Maybe he's still trying to ascertain if the players are good or bad, or maybe they can help him. But I wanted to leave it open-ended and wanted to have a location which you can confront him in his own home, search his home for something, and create this kind of foundation for which you can expand in your game. So let's go to the next location here. We'll jump downstairs. And the next location is the tavern over here, the Blackwater Tavern. I'll just close this and move this over here. So the Blackwater Tavern has 4 tables. It serves locals. It's more nefarious, darker kind of characters you would find in town. It's the 2 adult sons of Lady Walker, who are kind of, notorious and bad. But perhaps they have dinner here with Ernst. He meets with them here. The 2 wolf hunters, because they live close by, come here to eat and have some ale. The Blackwater Tavern owners are the Vallumps, Hildegard and Beauregard Vallump. Now, Hildegard and Beauregard Vallump want to have children, but they can't. And so they're looking to adopt some children. And upstairs, there's 2 bedrooms, and I'll show you 2 bedrooms that they've prepared to adopt a young boy and a young girl from the orphanage. So if you want to tie this into the orphanage in town, I left that open for you to kind of expand and be creative with that. The Vallumps are interesting because Hildegard Vallump is always in the kitchen, and she bakes. She's like the baker of the town, and she bakes pies. And I wanted to really play up the pie thing pretty heavy for 2 reasons. Number one is your players are already on their back foot. They're probably kind of freaking out because of their pie experience with the pie lady back in the village of Barovia. Well, these are just really good pies. There's nothing notorious or nefarious about them. They're just good, fresh pies. And she bakes them and she sells them in the window here, and they're really good. But you want to emphasize how good they are because you want to keep that player's suspicion elevated. Now, the husband here, Beauregard Vallump, and we'll take you upstairs so you can see his upstairs here. Beauregard Vallump is living some delusions of grandeur. He thinks he, at some point, is going to be this great alchemist or wizard. And so he's got this little area next to his bedroom that he's practicing some spells. He can't cast a spell to save his life. Depending on how you want to play him, he has these airs that he's bigger and better than he is, and maybe kind of fool the players into being some kind of special spellcaster. In reality, he's just kind of a putz. And he hasn't come to the realization that all he ever is and will be is the owner of the Blackwater Tavern, and his wife downstairs yells up to him when the tavern gets crowded to come down there and help her serve the people, because the only real money they're ever going to make is from this tavern downstairs. You can see here's the 2 bedrooms for the 2 children that they plan to adopt. Hildegard Vallump is just always wanting to have children, so she has these rooms all dressed up, waiting for the 2 adopted children to arrive. Now, one thing about Hildegard Vallump, we'll just go back downstairs, is she's very talkative. She is the town's gossip, and I have a gossip table here. So if we go to the gossip table, and I just open this up here, let me just put this on top, is if we can roll for this. I put a roll table in here, and if we roll in here, it'll tell us what she'll tell the players. Wolves and dire wolves prowl the woods and aren't afraid to attack travelers on the old road. Well-armed groups of hunters and trappers have managed to kill them. So she has constant rumors, and you can just roll from this rumor table, decide how you want to engage it. There's some stuff in here that I've put in here. There's stuff from Curse of Strahd, some other ideas in here. But she has all these rumors about the town, about Lady Walker and the Burgermeister and things going around the town. She's a great source of just rumors. And so there's this nice rumor table in here. So this makes for a great location to meet up with Ernst or other players, other nefarious types of characters in here. So let's head off to the next location. And the next location is this single floor house. And this is Milivoj's home. Now, Milivoj is aged out of the orphanage. I imagine he's probably, 18, 19. He's the groundskeeper and the gravedigger at the church. And this is where he lives. And he lives here with a young orphan boy from the orphanage named Jeska. Now, he's taken Jeska under his wing. Neither of them have any family. So they look to each other as family, like brothers. You have the older brother and the younger brother. And so they live here. In fact, you can see them right here. Here they are. They're playing cards together. Here's Jeska and here's Milivoj, and they're sitting in their place playing cards. There's a couple of beds in here. Now, I thought this was a good location to have because this plays into the St. Andrew's feast. So there's the bones of St. Andrew's. It's in the crypt. Father Petrovich has accidentally told the altar boy, Jeska. Jeska shared this information with his older brother, or the orphan brother, who they live together, Milivoj, who's the gravedigger. And Milivoj's gone into the church at night, broken into the crypt, steal the bones of St. Andrew's, and he's sold them to the coffin maker. And this triggers this huge event called St. Andrew's Feast. And I have a link right here to D&D Beyond, or you have your book, you can read about it. But it all kind of spawns from these two kids. And so to have a location where your players can try to persuade them or interrogate them or maybe search this place for the bones. This is going to be, your players are going to be running around town trying to find these bones. This is a great location for your players to go to have some role playing, some searching here. And, you could even throw in a vampire spawn if you want to here. Just do whatever you'd like to. So this is a great location that feeds into that quest story arc that happens in Vallaki. So the next place is another new location I've created, and I really liked the Pie Lady. I wanted to create something less kind of dark and kind of more, fun and lighthearted, and I created Lila's home. Now, Lila, and by the way, this is a tribute to my great aunt Lila, who actually used to read fortunes. Lila was once a great magic user. It's rumored that Lila was once a witch. But right now, she's focusing on one potion and one potion only, her magic mushroom potion. You can see here she's got some mushrooms in her place. She's got a little mushroom garden in the backyard here. And she's just working on creating this mushroom potion. She's very, nice, kind of senile lady. And she's willing to sell this mushroom potion. Now, what does this mushroom potion do? Well, it costs 1 gold, and if your player drinks, it does something random. And I have a random table here. We'll just take a look at it. Now, the effects of the potion last 24 hours. The players automatically roll a wisdom save of DC 15 to see if they're affected by the potion. Now, the potion has good effects, silly effects, fun effects, and some bad effects, but nothing deadly in there. But for 24 hours, the players will be affected. So let's just see what one of these things will do. And this is kind of fun. There's some fun role-playing ones in here. So let's see what we got. Okay. When you attempt to speak to someone's name to them, you automatically cast vicious mockery on them. So you can imagine this. Now you've drinking this potion. Every time that you speak and say someone's name to them, at the same time, you're automatically casting vicious mockery on them. And this can go on for 24 hours. So that's kind of a fun, awkward role-playing, because you're never going to want to, as a player, you can play this at the table, or play this online. Every time that player says somebody's name, he's going to cast vicious mockery on them. So it's pretty fun. Let's check out another one here. You gain true sight for 24 hours. That's not bad. I think a lot of us would like to have true sight for 24 hours. Here's another one. You're unable to understand what anyone says around you for 24 hours. So for 24 hours, you have no idea what anybody is saying around you. You just can't understand it. So there's some good things, some bad things. It's just a fun roll table. I put 20 of them in there. You can make up your own if you want to and put them in there. The roll table's all completed and in there. And I just thought it would be a fun encounter. Now, there's one other thing. If we go upstairs, she has her little lab. So she has this little room. You go up the stairs here to the second floor, and it's her little lab up here. Now, if you're up in her lab and you search her lab, and I think we have a DC 15 investigation, you will find a bag of beans, magic beans up here. So there's a great magic little item hidden in her lab. So if you do go upstairs to her lab, you've got a bag of magic beans. So she's a fun, just a fun encounter I thought to throw in there. Now, one location that I really like that I added in here is called the Trapped Paw. The Trapped Paw is the hunter shop, and this is where the two hunters that you run into are, and this is Zoldar and Yevani here, and they're the two wolf hunters, and this is where they live. And downstairs is called the Trapped Paw. This is the hunter shop, and I put in here in the journal notes, I suggest you running the module loot sheet. If you don't, down here in the journal notes, I have everything you can share with the players. There's all the items in there linked to the compendium. So they sell like leather armor, they sell some weapons, bows and arrows, daggers, and clubs. No real bladed weapons because they're hunters. They have some tools, leatherworking tools, lanterns, and then a bunch of hunting gear like bed rolls and hunting traps and ropes and fishing tackle. So this is actually a shop. The Trapped Paw is what it's called, and you can run into them. Now, when they're not here, they're probably across the street at the Blackwater Tavern, right across the street over here, having some ale. And when they hear there's new adventurers in town, they'll head over down past the square to the Blue Water Inn. So it's right across the street from them, and maybe they hear some stuff from the Valker kids or Ernst. So just kind of another interesting location. We have one more location until we get to the last one. This is a haunted house. It's called Herod's Haunted House. Now, Herod, here he is right there in the haunted house. It's a very small place. It's 2 stories. Herod was Vallaki's historian back when the Burgermeister's father ruled Vallaki. And Herod kept all the historical records. And the Burgermeister at the time was really disappointed. He didn't like what Herod was writing. He wanted to revise it to make the Burgermeister seem more glorious. And Herod said, well, writing history is not portraying right or wrong or good or evil. It's just recording history. And the Burgermeister got very mad with him, and Herod wouldn't change it. So he was thrown to prison, in which he died. Now, when he died, the Burgermeister emptied his house, locked it, and took all the historical books that Herod wrote and burned them. Now, Herod is obviously a play in tribute to Herodotus, the father of history, but I just called him Herod in here in his haunted house. So this is an interesting encounter. If the players go there and they call out Herod's name, and they can learn about Herod from either Hildegard of Volump, will tell them rumors, or from other people, what's that haunted house? Oh, that's, it's haunted by Herod. So the players will learn about him. If they call out his name, he will appear as a ghost. And I have him right here, and that's right, that is an icon. He's ghosted out right now. But that is an icon of the bust of Herodotus. He will appear, and he will attack the players. If the players attacked him, he has the stat blocks of a ghost right here. So here's his stat blocks and his features and whatnot. And if he falls to 10 hit points, he'll disappear. He doesn't want to get in combat. He is seeking revenge. So he asks the players to do a simple quest. Have the Burgermeister restore his name and restore his honor, and have him tell the people of the horrible atrocities that the Burgermeister's father did, including throwing Herod into prison and letting him die there. Now, if the Burgermeister does not agree to this, then Herod says, well, throw the Burgermeisters in prison or dispose of them any way you wish, but he is trying to restore his name. Now, if the players are willing to do this, Herod will do 2 things. He will give them the location of Strahd's tomb, the exact location. Where are you going to find Strahd's tomb? And the second thing, he will gift them the Ring of Protection. So Herod's quest is a fun quest you can do in town. You can play this in with the Burgermeister and Lady Valker. Maybe it's information that Lady Valker might want to know about, right? Because Herod has, he doesn't care who takes over. As long as his name is restored and the Burgermeister and the Burgermeister's family no longer rule Vallaki. So this is just a little fun quest. Again, there's a little upstairs here. You can have him appear wherever you want to. Oh, by the way, here's the upstairs over here of the wolf hunters at the Trapped Paw. This is where the 2 wolf hunters live. If we cross the street over here, this is the upstairs of the haunted house, Herod's haunted house. So let's go to last but not least. I know a lot of you have been asking about this. It's the the store for Blinsky's store. Now I got Blinsky. There he is, right there. I've got Piccolo, his little white-faced. I forget what kind of name of monkey. It's not a tree monkey, but it's a white-faced. It's a white-faced small monkey. So I have him there separately in there, and he's got his workshop in the back, and his is the toy store. Upstairs, there's a whole really nice place upstairs. This is where Blinsky has all his toy plans. He's working on his toys. Here he's having some bangers and some eggs. And this is his bedroom where, he's sleeping. So he's an interesting character. Now, what I've done in here, obviously you can click on the D&D Beyond link, or if you have Curse of Strahd, you can read all about it. But I wanted to add some special elements here. There are 7 toys that Blinsky has for sale. They're 10 gold each, and I thought I'd go through the toys because they're fun. Each toy has a special little magic ability. Now, the way this works is the player has to buy the toy. Once they get the toy, they can attune to it and do an Arcana check. And all the Arcana checks are 12. You pass an Arcana check at 12, you'll learn what the toy actually does. So let's just go through these toys. They're pretty fun. The first one is the unfinished Blinsky doll. So you have this doll here, and it's a scrying doll. So you can have Blinsky make up this doll into any person that you have met in Barovia. And Blinsky will charge $100 to do this. It will take 3 days, $100. And once it's completed, you can scry on this individual once per day using like the scrying spell. Now, the determined knowledge will be based on how well you know that person. You can look in the scrying spell. I think it's right here. There's a link right here. So do you know him secondhand, firsthand? How familiar you are with him will be the save modifier. And then addition, because it's just a likeness of them, they'll have a -2 on their save modifier. Now, Blinsky, under no condition will he make a doll look like Strahd. So anybody else that you have actually met in there, you pay him 100 gold on top of buying the doll for 10. He'll take 3 days, and he'll make this into a scrying doll that you can scry on somebody. So this is a really cool toy. The next toy that Blinsky has is the Flesh Golem. So you got this cute little Flesh Golem toy. Now, a player that has this, that succeeded their Arcana check and has this in their possession, when they're in the Abbey, the Flesh Golem will not attack the player. The Flesh Golem likes the doll. It's a little cute Flesh Golem doll that just kind of reminds the Flesh Golem that the abbot made about as to her. Now, if you gift this doll to the abbot or the Flesh Golem, you'll become good friends with the abbot, and the abbot will offer you to raise the dead should you ever die or fall in Barovia. They'll bring you back to the abbot, and he will bring you back to life as a thank you for gifting him this doll to give to the Flesh Golem. So it's a cute toy. It has this little cute mechanic to it. The next is the marble eye set. These are a bunch of marbles that look like eye, but they also they're similar to ball bearings. So when you throw them on the ground, they work just like the ball bearing mechanic, and I have a link there to how that goes. But in addition, if they fail to save, whoever slips on the ball bearing suffer 1d4 of damage. So it's ball bearings with a little bit of damage to them. Pretty neat. Next, we have the Blinsky skeleton doll. If you have this doll and you attune to this doll with you, you receive a +1 on your attack rolls against zombies or skeletons. So whenever you're fighting a zombie or skeleton and you've attuned and you have this doll with you, it's going to give you a +1 to your attack rolls. The next one we have is the silly vampire doll. It kind of looks kind of funny looking vampire. However, if you attune to this doll and you have this vampire doll with you, any damage that you take by a vampire is reduced by 2. So it's kind of a damage reduction. You have this doll with you, it reduces vampire damage just a little bit. Nothing these things are going to be game changers, but they can help just a little bit. The next is the werewolf mask. So once you realize and you do your Arcana check and you attune and wear this mask, no wolves will ever attack you unless you attack the wolf. So if you wear this mask and you see a wolf, the wolf won't attack you. Now, this doesn't work against werewolves, but only wolves. Now, if you do attack the wolf and there's other wolves there, the wolves will begin to attack you. So, kind of acts as like a first level kind of buffer against the wolves, but you got to be wearing the wolf mask, the werewolf mask. Last but not least, we have the Blinsky witch doll, and a player that attunes and figures out what this does. This casts once a day a witch bolt, but it only works against witches and hags. So if you have this doll, you're able to cast witch bolt once a day but you can only cast it on other witches and hags. So those are the magical dolls from the Blinsky toy store that he sells. He only has one of each. You don't know, don't tell them what the players do. They just tell them what they look like. Oh, this one looks like a flesh golem. By the way, in each one of these items, I have all of actually what it does marked in DM secret. So they would only see like, oh, a cute flesh golem doll. They won't know anything about it. You keep that a secret, so they just know what it looks like, and then they can do their Arcana check, and you can reveal what it does. So that is it. That is the streets of Vallaki. We've got 8 locations here. I've got the journal notes. I've got 2 roll tables put together here. We've got the mushroom potion roll table, the Volum's gossip roll table. By the way, I didn't tell you. I'll turn this up a little bit. I don't know if you can hear this. You probably can't. I have no idea if you can or not. There is music going on. I have Vallaki Day and Vallaki Night sounds. So I have day sounds and night sounds here for Vallaki. So if you're playing the night sounds or day sounds, you can have that as ambient music. So make sure if you like this guide, make sure you give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. That really helps me out. If you're interested in the Foundry Adventure Packs, you can join my Patreon. These are available to download and import. Special thanks again to all my Patreon members supporting me. I do put PDF guides for each one of these together as well. You can get those as a Patreon member as well. Thanks very much, and may all your rolls be critical 20s.